Did you think of Cordelia as a heroine?
Yeah.
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 Me too.
Yeah, she was lovable.
All right, we have a lot of you with questions, so please, one question at a time, and then we'll try and come back to you if you have more than that. This woman down here in the front, please. There's so many people here, we don't have mics, so if you're not too shy, I wouldn't mind standing up, and then I'll repeat the questions so those of you at the back can hear.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
You mentioned your unpleasantness with the contact lenses and then the hanging up and down. I remember with Giles and whatever.
There's other people.
I know, there's other people. The episode when, is it the Order of something was after Buffy? I remember the bug man? Yeah, because you were in Buffy's house with Xander and the guy knocks at the door and wants to sell you lipstick.
Right.
Okay, were they real bugs? Did you actually have to have all those worms and bugs all over your sweater and whatever, or was that like?
No. Yes, no. They were, yeah. There were worms everywhere, but I drew the line as far as worms being on me. So they did stunt worms. Yeah. You know,
they're worm wranglers?
Yeah,
in Hollywood?
There were snake wranglers too, because we had an episode with the snakes. Remember the cafeteria with all the snakes? The spaghetti turned into snakes or something?
Yes.
Petrified of snakes. Like, nobody pull any jokes on me either, because I'm dead serious. I will fall over and die of a heart attack. So afraid of snakes, and they had an episode of that, and yeah, it didn't bode well. And then, this is not sounding, it's not coming out right, but Sarah, we had a scene together in the cafeteria, and she had heard that I was afraid of them, and had a rubber one, and just threw it on me like spontaneously out of the blue, and I was in the middle of fell over, and it was just so frightening, but like now it's like quite funny. But you know, we like to get over on each other occasionally, but she, you know, her fear was like being in a cemetery and, you know, having sand, or, you know,
Buried in a grave.
Buried alive?
yeah, thank you. Yeah, that. She didn't like that very much.
So that would have been a hard thing for you the next day to try and like pretend to bury her alive. Yeah. Revenge, would have been tricky. Yeah. Next question. Lady there.
Hi.
I was wondering, the wit that you displayed throughout, and certainly the sarcasm, was that the creation of the writers, or was that something that you were actually been able to interject? And sort of as a segue onto that, after the pregnancy, you came back for that last episode of Angel where you died. For myself, it felt like you were back. Like it just sort of washed away a lot of what at that time I felt was a crappy storyline. So I didn't like the way it was going. So it was refreshing again to hear that level of really wit and sarcasm that you took into that. So I was just curious where that came from.
It came from the writers, and all of my witty lines today are stolen from them. And thank you for the compliment about episode, the fifth season, 100th episode of Angel. It was really intense. It was really intense, and it was bittersweet. There were a lot of reasons why I went back, and there were a lot of reasons why I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to go back if they were going to kill my character. And then I found out they were going to kill my character after I had already agreed to do it. And then I got pissed and I didn't want to do it. And I was crying and I was pissed and I felt like I got duped. And then David Fury came to see me. I was working on a show called Mismatch with Alicia Silverstone at the time, and it was on the same lot as Angel writers were working at. And David Fury came to my trailer at Mismatch and started crying. I'm like, you're kidding me, you're not going to kill Cordelia. And he's like, yes, we think it, you know, is the way to go and to wrap up the character and whatever. And I was horrified, and I was really, 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 really hurt. And I don't know, it just felt like it was really personal. And I guess just because I'd lived her for so long. And then he told me the storyline, and he told me how well written it was, and how sensitive it was told, and how it wouldn't be irreverent, it wouldn't be, you know, witty, or, you know, not witty, but like sort of
It wasn't
flip.
lazy.
It wasn't flip. It wasn't taken lightly, and you know, and I'm like, of course it's brilliant. You know, of course it's the right way to go, and that made sense. And you know, I was kind of always hoping that they would ask me back, because it was not a resolved chapter in my life at the time. But you know, it has to be now. It's over. So.
Sorry, just one thing to add to that though. I think that what my experience in watching it at that time was some of that we had a sense of in the audience, especially like I'm not one person that follows the magazines a lot, but we had a sense that what you were doing was after there was some issues and conflict. And in my perspective, watching you, it was like watching an employee who had gone through a bad thing really rise up and say, well, to heck with you, I'm going to give you guys my best work. And in my mind, that's what I saw in that episode.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
On Buffy and Angel, throughout all the seasons, we saw a variety of monsters. Vampires, zombies, werewolves, demons, ghosts. What's your personal favorite monster and why?
The question for those at the back is, of all of the creatures and monsters, which one is her favorite and why?
The ambiguously gay possum. From Buffy. It's, I guess, an inside joke. Explain it? There was
That's what
just this
Google
really
is for.
bad werewolf. You know, Seth Green played a werewolf, and the first time he, you know, the costume didn't come out right. And it was just really embarrassing. And Joss would just say it's an ambiguously gay possum. It's not threatening or scary in any way. So that's just sort of the inside thing with us. My favorite. Jeez, there's so many. You know, and I hate to admit this, but I don't remember their names.
What kind of weird head things do they have?
Okay, on Angel, when I got my sitcom, there was the episode with that demon.
Skip?
Was he Skip? Thanks. That's really sad, isn't it? You know, it's like a Rolodex. New info, old info falls out.
I like the banter between you two. That's why I remember.
Yeah, I liked him a lot. He was great. He's a really good actor. You know, and you know, I loved it when Angel was bad. That was the most fun. And I know she's not a monster, but Lila was really a bitch.
Yeah.
And I loved our scenes together. I loved them. It was like a bitch off. It was like, who would win? And I would be really pissed if she won, because she'd be like, I'm supposed to win. I'm supposed to win. And you know, they were really good. They were really good together. It was good chemistry. You know, like Spike and Angel. You know, they're at the same strength. You know, and that's what I felt like with Lila as well.